so many different venues, and yet there's this one place that we all know that we go to, and that is beyond the five senses. We know that we can see and hear and feel and touch in three dimensions, but then we have these experiences and they convince us, not through what we learned from our religion teachers, although it may have come from there, but really personally what's our portal to the divine. And I really respect everyone's portal to the divine, and that's a big theme. I've done readings for fundamental Christians, fundamental Jews, atheists, Wiccas, I mean, you name it. And I always find that people have a very important and unique portal. It's theirs alone, and that's what is important to explore. So I'm going to tell my story today, and it is a story of my own journey. I did ask Diane if I could talk about something else, and she said no. So I said any topic. She said no. How about intuition? No. Tell your life story. Okay, so I'm very comfortable, as you can tell. This is the only time I've ever done this in my life, talked about me instead of something else. So give me a break here if I'm not that smooth. But when I thought about what I wanted to talk about, one of the things that occurred to me was about voices. We always have a decision about which voices to listen to, both inside of ourselves and outside. And sometimes the conflicts that we have in our life are which voices do we listen to? And which voices have authority in us? And when I look at people's stories, when I look energetically at people, I want to get all the voices on the table, because I believe they're all important, and that's what I've learned through my journey. Is that the one that you don't want is usually the one with the most important message. You know, they say community doesn't start until the person you like least is in the room. Right? So, which voices do you listen to? In my life, it started quite young. In fact, before I was born, I was kind of set up for this. I have an older brother. He's 10 and a half months older than I am, an Irish twin. And he was born with a congenital heart problem, and they said that he wouldn't live. And that if he did live, he would be very slow in his motor skills, and he would be very slow cognitively. So my mother prayed, as a good Catholic, by the way, to St. Therese of Lisieux, that he would get better. And he had a heart operation, and they said, it didn't work, take him home. If he doesn't die, it's going to be not so good news. So she took him home and kept praying, and pretty soon his heart started to shrink, and it became normal. And today he has a couple of master's degrees, and he has a track and cross country in high school and college. So he's fine. He's a very gentle person. And that's why I was named Therese. So see, it was a setup. Well, it had nothing to do with me. So this is where I started my journey. So when I was very young, maybe 2 years old, and my father put a diaper on me because in the middle of the night he got up and thought I needed a diaper. I remember thinking, he's treating me like a child, and this is the last time this is going to happen. I distinctly remember that. I was really ticked off. How could he not know I'm potty trained? What is wrong here? So, and when I was 3, I remember my mother and father talking about the problems they were having with their, finances. And I remember finding a penny on the ground and slipping it into my mother's purse and just waiting for her to go, whoa, I can pay all my bills. And she didn't do it. I didn't understand that. But it started my career in trying to help everybody fix all their problems, that's for sure. It wasn't until I was, my mother, when I was 5, my mother would go to Mass every day, probably to keep sane, because every year there was a new child until there were 10 of us in 12 years. 1 year was a miscarriage, and 1 year we moved. So she just skipped those 2 years, and then 8 years later was a caboose, so we have 11 altogether. I'm the third oldest, so it got a little hard to breathe there. We had a very functional family, and my mother is a saint. There's no question about it. I used to go to Mass with her, and she would close her eyes, and she would bow her head, and she would go somewhere. And I kept looking at her. When I was 5 or 6, I just wanted to go to Mass with her. I kept looking at her thinking, where is she going? Because she doesn't live there every day, I don't recognize this place she goes. So I would try it, I'm putting my head down, I'm trying to go where she's going, I don't know where she's going. But at the same time as that happened, I know that the first time I saw the priest raise the bread and wine in consecration of if you're not Catholic in consecration, the priest raises bread and wine at the same time. He raises it up like that. And I remember the first time he did that, I thought, I know how to do that. I was 6. I know how to do that. That felt so familiar to me. Oh my God, I know how to do that. And so it didn't occur to me that, again, that was weird because as a kid you think everybody thinks like you think, right? And so I went to Mass with my mom, and when it came time in Catholicism, there's first confession before First Communion. And communion you get the host. I actually tried to sneak in line when I was 4 because my sister was older, and I wanted to get her communion. And they told me I couldn't. So I ducked down and I snuck in line and I did this, and I was hoping when I got to the front they wouldn't notice that I was younger than I was supposed to be. They pulled me out of the line. I was really mad. Anyway, I got caught. So so when my first confession came, you also have to know this if you're Catholic. How many of you have been or know about Catholicism? Okay, and a lot of you don't. Okay, so you should know that there's a lot of time spent talking about things you shouldn't do. And when I was 6, I was going to confession about an impure thought that I had. So I don't know what that was, but it must have been terrible. And so I got into the confessional. So here's the priest, and he's in the dark, and there's this little door he opens, and they're kneeling there, 6 years old. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. This is my first confession. These are my sins. And I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. He said, yes, honey, tell me your sins. And I said, and nothing came out. And he said, try that again. Nothing came out. And he said to me, you're going to have to go home and tell your mother about your sin, or God won't forgive you. Okay, so if I can't tell a guy in the dark in a dress on the other side of the screen that I have an impure thought, what makes you think I'm going to be able to go home and tell my mother, right? It didn't seem like a really good idea at the time. But what happened for me was that was the beginning of my spiritual life. Because I decided, when I went home, I was very clear that nobody would know if I said something or I didn't. And I decided that this love that I felt, this familiarity that I felt for Jesus, when I was 6, was strong enough that I said, I'm going to do it for Jesus. And so I did. I went home and I told my mother my sins. I have no idea what she was thinking, but she was very kind and said, okay, you've told your sins now, you must forget them, because that's what happens after forgiveness. You forget it, and you go play. I was like, oh, man, sweet. So I was going to hell. So that was the beginning of my commitment to Christ. I went every day to Mass for the next 20 years. I was at a Catholic school, so there was a lot of times it was just, most of the people were over 70 and myself. And then at the end they'd all leave and I would be by myself. By the time I was 8 years old, I was thinking, boy, the priest missed the point on that gospel. What a shame, he could have inspired all these people. And then I was thinking, how come I know how to see through the words and into their meanings? And then I would start getting taken on body at Mass. And I would be shown things and told things. I would see something called the Communion of Saints looking over the earth, guiding its evolution. And I would think I would feel like a little kid with all these tall white beings. And I could kind of identify the different ones. And again, now you're talking about 7, 8, 9, I have no ego involved in this because I have nothing to gain by believing this. It was just my experience. So I would get taken to a place that was absolutely incredible. It was like this. And it would take me up. Like first I would talk, and I would get done, and then I would go up. And it was so peaceful, and it was so rich, and it was so full of light, that when I'd come back in, I would be very depressed. And I kept thinking, somebody's got to show me the contract where I said I'd come into this life, because it was a forgery, man. I want to go there. I wanted to die not because I was depressed, but because I wasn't. I was in joy. I wanted to go there. So I learned a lot. Like one time when I was 9 years old, I was about to kneel down, and I got caught between kneeling and sitting, like somebody had the back of my neck. And what I heard was, this huge almighty wind that said, if I but blinked and forgot you, you would cease to exist. It was like that. And at exactly the same moment on the other side came a wind that said, and I would never forget you. Right there. And it was this amazing paradox of what it is to be human and divine at the same time, to be incarnate. You know, there's this almighty presence that's beyond anything we can understand. And then there's this caring. I know one woman told me a story about when she was on a golf course and she lost her keys, and then it got dark and she realized that she had to go back and find them, and then she went back and was starting to pray, where are my keys? I gotta find my keys. And all of a sudden she heard, look over there, and she did, and there it was. And she looked at her keys and she said, and I knelt down and wept. Someone in the universe cares where my keys are? I mean, how does that work? How does that work? How does that work that each of us has something so uniquely important that there are angels with us or guides with us or some presence with us that looks after us? How is that possible? So this was the journey I took. And I also got a lot of discipline. I was taught, I was told, now I could hear Jesus' voice in my heart. It was an impression. I heard it, I followed it, whatever it said I would do, I was in love. This is how it is when you're in love. You know this, you're in love and it's infatuation, and they tell you after 2 years of chemistry goes, so get prepared. But for those first 2 years, anything they say is wonderful, and you can't believe how profound they are. And it's like that in my spiritual journey was like that too, you know, here's this guy that this profound, anything. And then you get into the discipline of it, and you say, okay, it's not just about that consolation, as they call it in Catholicism, where you actually get to feel something good. It's about doing the right thing whether or not you feel good. It's about finding what that right thing is and following it. So I was given disciplines, I was suggested, highly suggested that I do some disciplines. So one of them was attachment. If I was attached to anything at all, to let go of it. So if I had a favorite cup that I just drink my tea out of, then I would give it to someone else to make sure that it didn't control me. I wasn't attached to it because I wanted to be attached only to that light. And of course I have 6 brothers and they helped a lot with this. You want some dessert treats? Yeah, it's like really good. You know, you're giving it up now? Ooh, you know, like one of those, yeah, thanks. Thanks for the discipline, guys. I learned that attachment to anything, it was, and these words all came to me through the Gospels too. You shall not have false gods before me was the same thing for me as attachment. You know, that cup was my attachment, it was my God, I couldn't do without this. Okay, we better let go of that then. So how much can you let go of? How much can you surrender? The other thing I was, sometimes I was just told, I heard, say to that person that you're watching there that's just talking, tell him what he said was important. Well, so I'd go up and I'd say, what you said sounded so important. Start crying. And I would have no idea what was going on. So what I was told in spirit is, what I do with the person that you talk to is none of your business. Your business is to stay in alignment and integrity and authenticity with me. What I do with them is my business with them. You're not allowed to know what that was about. It's irrelevant. But you stay in line, you listen to me and follow my voice. So that's what I did for years. And then I got disciplines on believing without seeing. My mother used to say, you know, if you want to do well in school, study like studying was the only thing, and pray like praying is the only thing, right? So, and you have Irish parents, it's like you get a lot of sayings. We used to call it lecture number 465 by Mom. So that's what I did, and I wasn't so great in science, and so I studied like studying was the only thing, and I prayed like praying was the only thing. And I went to take the test, and I got like a C-. You know, it just made me really mad at God, because I did my part. You know, like what? Okay? I think that should be obvious. I did my part. Where is your part? And so I wanted to be really angry, but I went into chapel, like, because there was nobody there and I was in a Catholic school, I could kind of just go out in different periods and show up. So I went in, and I got to the front of the church, and I looked up and said, you know, I really, really want to be mad at you, because this has got to be your fault, but you said, believe without seeing. So I have to trust that however this came out, it was for my highest good. So I'm just going to say thank you. And it's really hard, but I'm going to say thank you. So I did that, and I went back after lunch, and the teacher said, now we're going to go over the test one at a time. I was like, torture, no, I don't have to do this. that she went over one after one after one, and she marked all these wrong, and I got an A. And as I went up to get the test remarked, she said, I heard a voice say to me, and that's not the only test you passed. So it wasn't about the outcome, it was about trusting. When I was in high school, there was a chapel that I would go to, and I would be told, stay in prayer until I tell you to go. It's like a dog, stay, stay. And I felt like, okay, so I would stay. And sometimes there wasn't anything profound going on here, but I was told stay. And then the bell would ring. My class was starting. And I'm like, okay, be a good time to tell me to go now. Okay, good, good. Go, go. No. And I didn't hear it, so I just stayed. And it was one of those nail biters, like, okay, did you hear the bell? And I stay. Second bell. Shh. Now I know I'm late for class. Stay. And all of a sudden, I wait, okay, go. I didn't get anything profound here. I didn't get any information, but I was told to stay, so I did. About the 11th time that happened, there was never once that a teacher saw me coming late. Never once was I caught, never once. And what I heard was, you know, and as they say, it's in the Gospel says, at my name, every knee shall bend and every head shall bow. I bend time and space. If you do what's in alignment with the will of God, if you're following with integrity, all time and space bends to that. All time and space bends, not to me, but to me, right? To spirit. So I was kind of on a, you know, this is the relationship that I felt with Christ as I was growing up. And I actually have this painting by Richard Hook. I had to get it from a store I saw it in because it looked like somebody was exposing my spiritual life to the world, and I went by it and I thought, oh, how did they know? And so it's in my daughter's room now. But I did a lot of this. It was all about obedience. Stay, learn, do what I say, and I did, well, as much as I could. And people have said to me, well, the work that I do now, how can you do that if you're Catholic? Because I look at someone's energy, I now call what I do Christ Buddha consciousness, which is compassionate neutrality. And I look through that filter of compassionate neutrality, understanding and being with everybody else's story. And I talk about energy and I talk about other lifetimes. And they say, well, how can you even do this work that you're doing? And people can walk away, and some people say, you know, have sent me letters about different ways that it's impacted their lives, whether it's because they haven't, you know, felt the grief that they have from someone who's passed, because I can pretty accurately read dead people. And I did have a really wonderful client whose aunt told me not to call her a dead person. She said, call me someone who's gone to the other, dwells in another state. Because anyway, I really do love a lot of the dead people I talk to, and they said, don't call us that. I took offense. So anyway, but this is really interesting because I got these gifts, and I thought they were priestly gifts. I understood them as priestly gifts. And by the way, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I would be alone at Mass. Nobody saw me, but I knew I was rocking back and forth saying, I'm a priest in the order of Melchizedek. I was 8 or 9 years old. I had no idea what it meant. And thank God no one saw me, because I would be in a straitjacket with some electric shock treatments and a little off right now. But fortunately, no one saw me. I was extraordinarily protected in this my whole childhood. But I didn't find out until I was in my late 30s that the Levites were an order of priests whereby you were ordained a priest if you were born into the Levites, but nobody else was. But the order of Melchizedek, you were ordained at birth to be a priest. And that's what I found out about it. And all my life, I was grief-filled when I found out that I couldn't be a priest, because I didn't think I wanted to be one. I thought I was one. This is how past lives bleed through, I think. You know, I thought I was a priest. So when they said you can't be, I was so confused. I thought, what do you mean I can't be? You know, and looking at a guy in a dress telling me God doesn't come to girls that way was a little confusing too. Anyway, so I had to get past that. And here's the hard part, because my mystic experiences came from the tabernacle about transubstantiation, which in the church, in the Catholic Church, they believe that there's an alchemistic kind of experience that comes with the bread and the wine. And they're the only church that believes this. And what's interesting about that is, anybody hear about Rupert Sheldrake, morphogenetic fields, right? So he believes that if you do something over and over in the same way, that you're going to create an intention whereby when people enter that field, they're going to feel it and they're going to be inclined to go that way. So we won't go into the experiments that he did to find that out. But so the transubstantiation has been 2,000 years. People have been saying, okay, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. This is what's going on. So now you're going to enter that space, and of course, this is the opportunity to enter that portal if you happen to agree with it or be influenced that way. And if you're not put together that way, fine. That's not your portal to the divine. But if it is, there's a groove there. People have been doing the same groove for thousands of years and thousands of people. So it's a very interesting thing. So here I got my mystic, I was like Pavlov's dog. Every time I'd see a tabernacle, whoop, out of body, whoop, out of body. Didn't matter if it was even a Catholic church. I'd go into another church, whoop, out of body. So, I had to learn to curb that later on. But for the time being, I got that mystic experience through that relationship. And at the same time was told God doesn't come to girls that way. Very confusing. This was something I was taught too, authenticity. Because what I understood too is that I was accepted exactly as I am. That Jesus knew who I was and accepted me exactly as I am. I'm a fighter. I've also been, people have told me I was a squirrel in a past life, so I found this because what I used to do when I was a kid is I was very scrappy, and I'm a fighter. I'm an Aries, I have to fight. It's my nature. So when I didn't like a discipline that I heard that I needed to do next, I would imagine myself in a boxing ring with Jesus. And the rules were, I'd go as many rounds as I wanted to, and I would fight as hard as I wanted to. And at the end, I'd always give in or lose. But it didn't matter. I get to go as many rounds as I wanted. Which is my way of respecting my own personality, because I figure, look, you gave it to me. You must know what I'm going through here. So, this is me with my gloves on. I'm going as many rounds as I have to, because that's what's authentic to me. I don't like what you're telling me to do, and I'm not going to hide that fact. I'm going to let you know, and we're going to go at it and go at it till I'm tired, and I say, okay, fine, you can win now, but not till I'm done. This is what I saw. I heard this hymn was, tell the people I love them, tell the people I care. When they feel far away from me, tell the people I'm there. And that's what I thought I was doing all my life. Just tell the people I'm there. And this is what I read. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons, freely you receive, freely give. So those are the kinds of things that when people say, how can you do what you do? I'm like, I got those gifts by asking, because it said asking you shall receive, seeking you shall find. So I kept saying, look, if it serves this light to bestow these gifts so that I can be of greater service, I'm all for it. I'm praying for it, and it said pray and you receive, and then you get it, and they say, what are you doing here? You don't belong in here. It's very confusing. So anyway, that was the trip, and I won't go through a lot of those. Okay, let me tell you about the date with the gun I had. So so this went on through my own whole childhood. When I was 14, I heard Christ say, when you're 21, things between us will be different. At which point I was like, okay, then kill me, because I have no idea how to live without this voice inside me. When so I knew that there was something coming, and I went on a date with a guy over by Rush Street, and we were pretending. I said, look, my birthday's coming up, these mansions are here, I think you need to look at this if you really like me. I think, I was fooling around, and then this guy came up out of the bushes, and he was actually a young kid, and he had a hood on, and he went like this, and he had a gun, and he pointed directly at my stomach, and the guy with me did not see the gun, and he said, give me your purse. He didn't hear him say that. So he said, no way, and he pushed past me. I fell into the street. He fell next to me. Now the gun was at my back. And I thought that was it. I literally thought that was it. Did I have a near-death experience? No, I was just completely traumatized. So I fell into the street, and someone came around the corner just as this happened, and the guy ran away. He could have easily just have pulled the trigger, and I would have been gone. But apparently there were other plans for me. So that night I started to hallucinate. And when I finally told a friend of mine I was hallucinating, she said, you need to see a therapist. Now at this point, therapy was like, okay, you're about to go into the loony bin. I don't need a therapist. I said, I just got held up with a gun. It's no big deal. I've just been chanting, the Lord of Light and the Lord of Love and these sort of things all night long. But that's no big deal. And she's like, okay, you should see my therapist. So she gave me the name of her therapist. And then her therapist listened to my story over the phone and said, I'm going to give you the name of my therapist. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm crazy. I'm completely doomed. She said, just go to lunch with her and tell her your story. I was like, oh, I'm more shit than I thought. So I went to lunch with this woman, and this woman's looking at me, and she's listening to me. And I tell her some stories, about what's normal for me and really weird for other people. And she says, okay, I was a sister of yours in another life. I said, okay, I'm Catholic, you're nuts, and I'm leaving. I see what you're talking about. She said, no, and she was a psychic. So her name was Rhea Powers. First psychic I ever met in my life, and her name was Rhea Powers. I was like, oh, come on, that's not your real, that can't be your real name. Real Powers, come on. And so, it really was. She's written a book and stuff, but she said that you should go, my guides are telling me, first of all, I didn't even know what guides were. I could see spirits in church, and I knew who they were. But guides, I didn't know what that meant. I knew saints. St. Therese was with me in different ways. Okay, she said, my guides tell me you should go take Est. Est. That was like before the forum, Warner Earhart's, Est. It was in the first version when I said, look, and there was a movement called the Moonies back then too, and people would get married with the Reverend Moon, and they would all kind of go into. I said, listen, I've seen those Mooney people, I know, thanks, but it's been great having lunch. I gotta go. She said, no, St. Therese told me that you should do this, and then she gets a rose, she pulls it out and she gives it to me, and I'm like, and then she tells me something that I've been praying about that no one knew but me. And I'm like, I go, wait a minute, I've never known a psychic in my life. I didn't know any of the gifts I had were psychic gifts. I thought they were mystic gifts, right, peaceful gifts, and for the community. Okay, so I ended up going to Est, and it's quite the journey to find out that I created my own reality. And it really changed me in terms of just moving spirit from God the Father only to God the companion that was a friend, beloved. And they were very kind. They asked me to teach it. I did such a good job. They asked me to teach it, Est. I said no. I said, really, I really appreciate the brainwashing, but I don't like your value system, so I'm going to go fill it up with my own. Then I got to a dream. I had to go to Boulder, and I went to Boulder, Colorado. By the way, all this time I had gone from my career in banking to management consulting to information technology, and I loved all of it. It was intellectually breathtaking. But in the meantime, I'm having this sort of other life. So I got to Boulder, and I heard Christ say to me, if you love me, divorce me. What does that mean? I had no idea what that meant. And I sat with it, and I sat with it. And finally, I saw that the quote by Master Eckhart that says, leave your notion of God for the experience of a God that transcends all notions. Oh, you're attached to that version of Jesus? Let go of that too. You got attachments? Keep letting go. So that was the beginning of a huge change in my life. I had left the consulting firm. I went to New York, and I happened to be at Tarrytown, which was a group that was started by Margaret Mead and Robert Schwartz. And he had asked me to head up a group of leaders from across the country who wanted to be teaching learning community for high integrity business. And one of them was trying to create shrimp farms in the desert to change the economics of the Middle East. One of them had created the Epcot Center. One of them was the first guy to go to China. So I got to know all these people. One was Bill Gore and his wife who did Gore-Tex. Fantastic, unbelievable. I was so humbled. I had no idea how I ended up there. But anyway, I worked with that group, and it was my first foray to the New Age. They were talking about New Age stuff, and I was like, what is the New Age? And I had a dream to go to, after that, to go to Boulder, so I did. And I had met a man who ended up to be my fiance, and we were in a place called Silver Springs. And I had a dream one night that it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was a guy in a turban, and he was leading me to a hospital, and I had hair, long hair. And on the way, I saw a guy who had a long hat on, and I knew that it was St. Joseph. from when I was a kid at Mass. I knew that was St. Joseph. I said, oh, hi, Joseph. He said, oh, hi, Therese. Don't tell anyone I'm here. It was like the 3rd century, and people don't get, that this is me here. I'm like, oh, no problem. I won't tell anyone. So he took me to the hospital, and he had me lay my hands on people. And he didn't want anyone to know that he was doing this. And then I went back. He took me back to the house, and there on the mantle there was a book, and it had letters on it, pictograms. I kept looking at it thinking, I know this. Why can't I remember this, what it says? What's this language? I woke up, shook my head, and went right back to sleep. And I had a dream that there were a pair of hands that were like right next to each other, and they were golden brown and glowing. I said, whoa, I've never seen it. It's gorgeous. They're beautiful. And then I looked down and I'm like, oh, they're mine. They're attached. Oh my God, they're mine. And I woke up, and I went downstairs, and here's my fiance, and he had just finished a course in ancient Chinese calligraphy, and he was practicing, and I looked up, and he had just written exactly what was in my dream on his canvas. And I started saying, I had this really weird dream, and I said, and that's what was written there. I said, what does that mean? He said, oh, it means healing hands. So that's when dreams and reality started to blend. Like, where are you? Which reality are you in? And to understand that there's some wholeness going on. There's a wholeness happening here. So I also began to channel at that time, experienced channeling both from the planetary level, what was going on, what was coming. I ended up being in presence of Hopi Indians, Eastern Indians. I don't know how I got involved in all these things, but it seemed to be taken place to place to place. I got to learn sound healing and color healing and all the vibrational healings. I got to start I took psychic classes because I didn't know what to do with the gift I had. And the whole time I'm praying, okay, is this really what you want me to do? And like, I'm still trying to find how this is related, because I went through a dark night where I had spiritual amnesia. From all my childhood until I was 21, just as promised, I woke up and had no idea how to pray. And I used to do prayer. I used to lead Bible study prayer session. I had no idea. I had no idea how to pray. I kept looking at people, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? So I was just kind of groping in the dark this whole time. And I was having to find my way. So anyway, Boulder turned out to be a place where I learned everything about the New Age. It was quite the experience. And then I had a dream to go to San Francisco. So while my fiance was in Tibet studying Tibetan art, I wrote him and said, don't come back to Boulder because I moved with your car to San Francisco. So he said, okay, he's a very nice guy. By the way, he was a psychiatric nurse, which I totally needed at the time. So that was really good. That worked well for me. Okay, what I learned, you all know this. What you put out is what you get back. Anybody ever hear of Hakomi? Hakomi? Wonderful, isn't it? Body-centered psychotherapy. I ended up getting trained in it because I met Ron Kurtz, who created Hakomi. Body-centered psychotherapy, the word Hakomi means, how do you relate to all these things, other, self, and great spirit, right? And it says, it's important to partner with your unconscious, and again, put all the voices on the table. Embrace the voices you don't want to hear. Find where they are in your body, and so look at them, and then when you're afraid, and you say, well, my fear's in my right leg, at least I'm not my fear, it's over here. Let's track what it's trying to tell us. Let's find the wisdom. So Hakomi was a big, I found it to be the most accelerated, I was studying how to accelerate transformation. It's always been fascinating to me. It's like, Earth is so slow. Personalities are so hard to get through. Everything just seems so slow to me. How do you speed it up? So I was looking for the most accelerated transformation that I could find. And Hakomi was it, because it was the slowest. It made you go mindful, breathe, be present, witness, and the slowest, one step at a time, turned out to be the fastest transformation that you can get. I love Hakomi. And I used to also follow every single thought I had to find out where it came from, which is, I think, how my intuition is when I do work with someone and I look at their energy and I'm looking at say, this is my challenge, and I can right away go, okay, that's related to self-esteem, your third chakra, that's going, okay, and that's an ancestral pattern, and that goes over there. Because I used to do that with myself. It was a little, again, it's a good thing I hadn't had a lot of witnesses, or people would have said, that's a little OCD, We're going to have to do something for you or with you. So, okay. I did get 2 years of, how many people have had chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, or anything like that? Listen, sometimes it shows up a lot in the spiritual realms. I used to have energy sessions where I could see my brain changing code while the energy session was going on when I had chronic fatigue. And I would say, my RNA, and I would channel, RNA changing, DNA changing, da-da-da, and I would channel what it was. God, it's a good thing I'm not really super conscious of what I'm doing all the time, or I'd put myself down there. How many people have read Cosmic Voyage? Courtney Brown's Cosmic Voyage? Anybody?
What is that?
Who said that?
What is that?
Cosmic Voyage. Courtney Brown was he was a professor, and he got tapped by the CIA to become a remote viewer using the Monroe Institute tapes. You get that? His stuff was in Time magazine too. And so he learned to be psychic and to be a remote viewer, and he would spy on Russian satellites and draw them and send them to the US, and they had people all over doing this, and then they could get a 360-degree view of the Russian satellite. And he wrote a book on this. And he said, at the end of his book, he started seeing things, and he finally said, what we really need to do is we need to get ambassadors who are willing to go to galactic levels, and we need to have them be ambassadors for the Earth. Anyway, I was thinking, well, I'm not doing anything with my time. Why not? Maybe I should try that. and I'm extremely psychic. It's kind of like I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and I can channel. So putting myself under the Monroe Institute tapes was just so not a good idea. But I just kept thinking, well, what have I got to do? So I did the tapes, and my nervous system started to speed up and speed up and speed up. And at one point, someone had their hand under my head, and I heard Christ say, "If you love me, leave your identity." And at first I thought, I'd do anything for Christ. And then I went, wait a minute, why is this voice in my head and not in my heart? Because Christ never came in my head before. And why, it wasn't surrender to me, it was surrender your identity. What was that about? I went, okay, this is growth in discernment. Because it sounded just like that voice I'd known. But it was coming from the wrong place. You had to get the discernment. I said, okay, this is not. So I went back I went back and visited California. I had moved back to Chicago from California, and I had a reading with my ex-psychic teacher. And I love this. She's so in neutrality, and she says, well, you've got satellites beaming everywhere in your field, beaming everywhere, broadcasting messages to you. And they want you to. There's a group of, I don't know if it was the Pleiades or another group, wants you to give over your identity to them and let them come in. This is what they call walk-ins, right? You leave your consciousness and they come in, apparently. And she said, now normally when I say something to you, you're already done. Like you're the fastest person I know to change everything, but you're not moving. And I was saying, well, And she goes, okay, here's the deal. You talk about off-planet things. Here's the deal. You're looking at it like they've got this big candle, and their mission is so important because they're more important than you. And you got this little birthday candle here, and who are you anyway? So God gave you an identity because there's something to be done through you. This is their stuff. This isn't your stuff. And all of a sudden I said, wait a minute. You mean that if I really left my body here and let them come in, it would be because of low self-esteem? Okay, that's not happening. And so immediately, I'm like, okay, you're out. Everybody out, 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 out. But, I was kind of going, well, they're kind of more important than I am. They get this mission. What do I know? And I'm like, so, it was, oh, no, not low self-esteem, no. So that's the only reason. And then I had a phone call when I got back to my house from my brother, John. Now, my brothers and sisters are very diverse, but there's a lot of Democrats in the family. My Rush Limbaugh-loving, cigar-smoking, whiskey-drinking Republican brother John called me and left a message. I love this guy more than anybody in my family. He's a big coach and everything, but his politics worry me. So I got a call from him. Therese, this is John. Okay, I had a dream about you last night, and the next time that they want to give me a dream about you, do it at the beginning of the night or the end of the night. I got kids, I gotta sleep. Okay, here's what I gotta tell you. An angel came in to my family's house and family room and told me to tell you it's not time to leave the state yet. Now, John is thinking he means my moving from California to Chicago and back again. And of course, I was leaving my body and letting something else come through. And he doesn't know that. What he said happened is that he has a family room and he has 3 kids, and I love his kids. And he said that all the kids were there on the couch, and here comes this guy out of the wall. And he's got a drink and he's got a cloud for a head. This is the angel. So I'm not asking him, okay, he has a drink in his hand and he got a cloud for a head, how's he gonna, okay, I'm not gonna question anybody else's idea of angels, but he said that the angel told him, he had a message for him and he wanted me to tell him to tell me about this. And he said to John, no, you're not gonna forget this, are you? And my brother said, no, I'll tell her. Okay, so he told me, and as he was leaving this message, he also said to me, just a minute, I have another set of messages. He said while he was leaving this message on the tape recorder, because I wasn't home, all your kids came in and sat exactly where they were in his dream, exactly the same position, and said, so I knew I was supposed to give the phone to them. And each one of them, Aunt Tweez, I miss you, Aunt Tweez, like a reason for me to stay in the state. Oh, Aunt Tweez, come and visit us. So I thought, isn't that interesting? Where our messages come from and how they come. I guess it wasn't time for me to leave the state yet. How many of you have been to John of God, João de Deus, out in Brazil? Know about him? Yeah? Seen things? He's a healer. He channels about 35 different entities. And I was in I'm not interested in New Age phase. I'm in Chicago now. So I wasn't looking at that stuff. I still was doing my readings, but I just wasn't. And somebody said someone was talking about John of God, and I was like, okay, it transitions. I'm not going there, Oh, I can't tell you how I ended up there, because it was like one of these. And I finally was standing there with a girlfriend of mine. I was even trying to read a book in transition, pretending I wasn't listening. I ended up here I am in the front row in a seat like this, listening to every word. And I'm thinking, why am I here? What is this? And then I thought, oh, there's a friend of mine. She's wound up an octave tighter than I am. You can imagine this poor thing. And she's got some real problems physically. So I said, I'm supposed to take her to see John of God. That's what this is about. João de Deus. Yeah, take her to John of God. I called her up. I go, I'm taking you to John of God. There's no other answers. We gotta go. So we planned it. We went down there. We saw John of God. And then I get in line, and there's that. John of God is standing there, and you shake hands, and somebody translates from Portuguese. And I said, listen, I'm here because I do business, and I'm also an intuitive, and I do soul level work. And I want to know which one I should do, and I wondered if you could kind of direct me. Interpreter sends back a message. He goes, operation. No. I just need to know whether I should do business or should I keep doing this work like intuitive healing work. Operation. No, that's for my friend. Operation. I'm like, okay. I'm like headed to this room, and then you sit down in this room, and people pray for you in the other room for 10 minutes, and they come in and they go, you're done, go into recovery. Okay. I go in and I go in recovery, lay down. Oh my God, my chest is killing me. My left breast is killing me. The guy took out a tumor. I didn't know I had a tumor. That guy saved my life. I thought I was doing it for her. She didn't get an operation. I'm so arrogant sometimes. So, as you can see, I tend to be pretty clueless.
Were you well after that?
Pardon me?
Were you well after the operation?
Was I what?
Were you okay after the operation?
Yeah. I was just in pain. They give you passion pills. They're just passion herbs, and that's how they say that the spirits detect you and they kind of follow after you until you're completely healed. It was months before I stopped hurting. I wasn't hurting going in. They say cancer doesn't hurt. So I just can say I'm very grateful. So I used to say though that I could probably stand out on the highway in front of a Mack truck and it wouldn't hit me because I'm not done yet. You know how sometimes she's like, give me it to that light. You're staying. Oh shoot. So I think this power of the Word made flesh, the incarnational vibration, is very powerful because every single one of us experiences in our birth, right when those cells came in, right when the Word became flesh, right when life came in to life. And every one of us had this vibration that happened there. That's the seed of our lives. It's the way that the Word becomes flesh through us. It's an expression of God. Each of us is an expression of spirit that's unique. That vibration is unique. And to honor that through your whole life, this vibration that you are that's so unique to the world, I think that's part of working with the mystery. just knowing that you are the vibration of an aspect of love. So I have a lot of theories about all these things, but they'll probably bore you to death. So I'm just going to tell you that when someone comes in to see me, that's kind of how it is. That's what I'm looking at. And I get people's information by the sound of their name. Did you know your name was a mantra? Because you've said it every day of your life, and many people have said it to you every day of your life. It's a mantra. Your name is a mantra. So when I hear your name, I get your energy, I get your mantra, and then I can see you holographically. So I work off of people's names, and then I can see. I can actually do that without, fortunately, I just have to say this for women, menopause is a really fabulous thing if you're psychic, because it really dulls down your sensitivities to, you know, when I used to be, I'd walk in a room and feel every person's pain. That's clairsentience. You know, feeling every person's pain, feeling every person's unspoken feeling. It's a really difficult thing to have that gift, and a lot of kids have it today, and people think that they've got migraines and stomach aches because they've got problems with hormones. They're clairsentient, and there's ways that you can help with kids to help them do that, which is another thing I'll tell you about in a minute. But so that's clairsentient. So, and then there's clairvoyance, of course, means clear seeing, and clairaudient means clear hearing. And of course then there's channeling, which is allowing another entity through, which is different. You know how in the movie Ghost, you guys all know this, the movie Ghost, how Whoopi Goldberg lets somebody come into her and it's go, oh, hi, you know, like that, that's channeling. And then when she talks to Patrick Swayze and says, you know, I hear what you're saying, that's clairaudience, because she's not letting him in there. She's just listening. Oh, then at the end she lets him in because she gets to dance with him, he gets to dance with her again. So that's the channeling piece. So anyway, all of those are, our kids right now are full of those kinds of gifts. And I've had 14-year-old clients that I've got, you know, that we just, okay, that get them off the meds and let's get to understanding them in a wider spectrum. So, what for me is important about my journey is it gives me the opportunity to see that if someone were looking at my life, if somebody had a view of me when I was at Mass, if somebody saw what I was doing, oh, way big time Ritalin. Oh, way big time I'd be on drugs. Oh, way big time I'd be in a hospital. And by the way, my friend who I took to Joao de Deus was put in a mental hospital and given electric shock treatments because she had many of the gifts I have, except she got caught. So there's lots of kids right now that have these gifts and they're getting caught. And people don't have a big enough map in order, that you all have, I know you all have a bigger map, that allows you to see them in that light and respect and honor them in that light. So,
what do you mean get caught?
Be seen acting out of the gifts, the symptoms of the gifts.
By the traditional world.
Yes. Yeah, and you know, you go in and like one client I had, this 14-year-old, she was getting migraines and stomach aches and it was debilitating. And she was clairvoyant and she could see who was going to die. And it was very disturbing to her because she couldn't make heads or tails of who was going to die when and what that meant. She just knew someone was going to die. And then what did she do with it? She stuck it in her stomach and she kind of went, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about this? It's a terrible thing. So when I said, okay, let's develop your third eye, let's give an owner's manual for your gift. Let's develop your third eye, and then every time you have one of those feelings, you ask yourself, is this someone I know? Is this someone I don't know? Is this collective? Is this individual? And then you find out, and when you get a hit, your body relaxes and goes into peace. You don't stick it in your stomach and get a stomachache from it. So she's learned to heal herself by asking herself the questions about what her feelings are about, what her senses are about, sensations. So, yeah.
You said that you was going to say about the children, how you can clear them from their sense of all the empathy that they have, that is so bad to feel all of that. I used to feel that and I chose by willing not to. And I can see that my son is the same way, and I can see one of my nieces is exactly the same way, and she's always serious. And we communicate with the thought through distance. And so I can feel it all the time, that she's sad because she sees all of this.
Yeah, sad. So a lot of kids, she's saying, are sad because they can feel the feelings of others and they can see things that they don't know what to do with. So I tell clients this, first of all, there's some basic techniques you can use if you're clairsentient. You put your hand on your belly for one, when you go in a room and you want to absorb those feelings. It's pretty simple like that because it's coming in the second chakra. Secondly, you can also imagine where you're going, bless the room, and ask for the peace to come into the room and ground what's going to be there so that your highest good is done. The third thing you can do is if you start to feel funny, you walk out of the room and see if it changes. And if it changes dramatically, you know you were feeling someone else's feelings. Third, I believe that every gift is given to a person to develop and to serve. I don't believe it's a mistake or a terrible thing or that someone has something wrong with them because they have these gifts. What I'm doing with my gift is service. I'm only able to do it because I'm not on drugs. And yes, I have some very weird kind of symptomatic things that have happened in my life. On the other hand, managing those still allows me to serve with a gift and serve in a powerful way sometimes as a vehicle for that energy to come through. So I think that it's important to know that if there is a gift, there's a reason for the gift. And it can be used in service, but it first has to be understood. If we don't know something is a gift, we don't know what choices we have, right? We don't know we have a choice with it. I think the first time I was in psychic class, and I felt something coming through, and it was going like one of these. And the teacher says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, there's a spirit, and the spirit wants to come in." And I just kind of like grounding myself, and she said, "Well, you could do that, or you just say no." I said, "I can. I can say no." You know, people don't know that it's free will and they have a choice and it's a gift. So that's another thing to know. And if you have an owner's manual for your gift, you know what you can start to know you have different kinds of choices. I think that clairsentience, what I tell the kids too, is if you feel something from someone and you can identify who it is, who's hurting, your responsibility is to tell spirit about that person. That's why you were given the gift. That person needs prayers. That person needs to get help. So you say, okay, whatever spirit or guide that you are comfortable talking to, this person, I feel their pain, and I'm going to give it to you. I'm not taking it on, I'm not attaching to it, and it's not mine. I'm giving it to you because I'm here, this is my job. That's why I'm giving the gift. So that's what I tell them, so that they disassociate with the gift, so that they don't think something else is theirs, and so that they can create better, healthier boundaries. Because there's three things that people with my and other gifts are a little fuzzy on. Grounding, boundaries, and centeredness. Probably all human beings, but especially people with these gifts. Where's the ground? How do I locate myself in space and time? Like, I've always thought I'm kind of like a schizophrenic person, except I can locate myself in space and time most of the time. Because those guys talk to people who are in different realities, and everybody calls them crazy or psychosis and stuff. You know, and some of them are the chemical imbalances, but I'm saying, you know, I've often thought, you know, my cousin over there. So, you know, I do think it has a lot to do with locating yourself in space and time, being able to ground yourself. And if I didn't have 10 brothers and sisters, and being from the south side of Chicago, I'm telling you, if my mother were, you know, a bohemian, I'd be on a street corner with a neon sign going, psychic, $5. You know, what else would I do? You know, I happen to be where I am because my brothers and sisters think I'm nuts, you know. And my brother says, okay, Therese, you go to work, okay? You go in, there's the desk, you know, there's the books, okay? You sit down, and then what do you do? Like, that's the part I can't answer for him because, you know, what do I say? Well, I go, Mother, Father, God of all creation, we ask you to make us aware of your ever presence. And then I start the reading, you know. I just can't tell my nuclear engineering brother about this. I just can't, yeah.
Have you been confronted? I seem to receive a lot of energies, like family and friends, and I hear their thoughts, and I feel so weird, and then it changes my mood, my being, my energy.
So you have permission for them to come in. So we're all, and that's one of the things I do in the readings is look for where's your unconscious agreement for that to come in. So what you can do is ground yourself, find the grounding cord from the base of your spine through the center of the plant and hold it tight. And then you can notice that you have an auric field that's 2 feet around you on all sides. That's just yours. And you say, no one has any authority to come in here but myself and my spirit. And then you have to believe it. But you know how it is when somebody wants to sell you something, they knock on the door and they say, you know, I'd like you to buy this vacuum cleaner. And you say, listen, you know, we're just starting dinner. I really appreciate what you're doing. You're working so hard here, and I really appreciate that. And maybe another time I could, but right now it's not a good time. And besides, our money isn't that great. And he goes, okay. And he goes to the next door, and he goes, yeah, I'd like to buy this vacuum cleaner. The person goes, no, shuts the door. So who do you think he's going to go back to, right? So this is the same thing. If we're going to go, well, those voices I don't hear, you go, no, no.
Except that these
There.
voices, can I sap your energy?
What's that?
Except that these voices, they say, can I sap your energy?
These voices say, can I sap your energy? And your answer would be? No. Okay, good. That's all it takes. Just practice. No. That's all permission. And we do that, we trade off. I'll give you $5 for your approval and you can have my truth. Okay, let's make an unconscious agreement. I want to tell my truth and you approve of me. Okay, that works well, except I have this terrible pain in my throat and I don't know why it comes, and I've been to all the doctors and they tell me I just need lozenges and it doesn't work and I don't know why. Okay, why don't you take the permission out for that guy's approval, and then your throat will clear up. It's probably not that simple for a lot of people, but for a lot of people it really is that simple. So we make agreements all the time, and we're not aware of them, and it has to do with our maturation in spirit. It has to do with our maturation in spirit. That's why if we find out these things, in order to let go of somebody's approval, you got to let go of their approval. And if you really like them, and you think that's all you get to have, like that's the top of the line, and you're going to trade it for love, because that's as close as you can get to love, well, you got to let go of that. That's a price you're paying for your truth. You're always paying a price for your truth on an ego level. Not on a spiritual level, but on an ego level, you'll always pay a price for your truth. On a spiritual level, that looks just like another degree of freedom. Another degree of freedom on a spiritual level is a payment on an ego level. Those are related. So it depends on where you're coming from. Let me ask your perspectives, questions, etc., because I'm pretty much here. That's who I talk to now. That's my daughter. She sees dead people too. I have her on stretch goals, honey. You haven't seen a dead person in five days. It's what's wrong. Let's look. Most people worry about that. I get stretch goals for her. So I'm listening to her a lot, and that's the love of my life, and that's right now what I'm paying a lot of attention to. So the question is, to which voices do you listen? And what's your commitment? And what voice is important? And what are you willing to pay for that? We all pay or don't pay, and then get to see what that looks like. So there's probably, that I may have said too much or not enough, and I'm going to just stop there. Yeah.
You said that our names are like mantras. What do you feel when someone consults you and the name that they've been given from birth, which has been pronounced by their family a certain way, has then been changed by that person later on? For example, I was called Leslie, and over the years I decided I liked that name pronounced Leslie. How does that change my mantra?
Isn't it interesting that from your original story, in the first mantra it says less, and in the second one it says les. Like there's an acceptance of a laissez-faire in the second one. The first one it's less than, and you had an experience of being less than because you had no control of what happened to you. It's a vibration that suddenly, why do we want to change our names? What's going on with us that we're in a place where there's something going on that says you got to do that, or it feels different to me. I can get people's energy from their quote-unquote original blueprint. The only reason I know that this is so important is there was a guy in his late 50s that came to see me, and he said his name. And I listened and I said, I arrogantly said, what's wrong with your name? I can't get anything. I didn't say I'm having a bad day. I didn't say, I'm really sorry that this isn't working. I said, what's wrong with your name? And he looked at me and said, oh, I changed it 6 months ago. That's how I know that this works. Because then he said his name. It's like Star Trek. It's a signature in space. I go, oh, okay, your name. Okay, now I got it. I always thought this was going to be the easiest part of the reading because my clients, all they have to do is say the name. But what happens is I was adopted and changed my name, and then I got married once. I changed that and then got divorced, and then we had 3 other marriages, and then, which names do you want? I said, okay, the seminar was not supposed to be on what's your name, but sometimes it works like that. But at the end of the day, I ask people to say their first, middle, maiden, married name if they take that on. And if they sometimes have created some other name or they want to pronounce it another way, that's fine. I can actually get the energy without anybody's name. I can just look at you and get that energy. But I have an ethic. See, this is what I've learned from being a Catholic about this. what your ethics are matter, what your values are matter if you're an intuitive, if you're a psychic. There are schools out there that will tell you it's about neutrality. I get a little miffed about that because they're actually operating out of values that are not explicit. I find that to be highly offensive. You are always operating out of values. Making them explicit is being transparent and in integrity. Not making them explicit makes everything suspect because you don't know why someone's doing what they're doing, what they're wanting out of it, or what they want for you or don't. And I think it's very important in terms of doing this work because I think it's sacred work. I think that intuition is another world. You take your shoes off, it's sacred ground, just like you go to another country. You don't expect to learn that language just by listening once. You don't expect it to fit into your paradigm of how the world should work. There are symbols in this world and it's a language. And if you're respectful enough and you stay long enough, you get the privilege of learning that language. And then what you do in intuition is whole. And you're not a victim of your intuition. It seems sometimes when people say, well, I get a C and a K, and is it a CK? Do you know any CKs? I think you're not a victim of that information. Just sit with it and be and wait. You have to wait respectfully. And I can't tell you when they say be a fool for Christ how long I've waited and looked like a complete fool to someone else because I have to be committed that what I'm doing is in integrity with my spirit. And there have been times when I'm looking at a person and I'm not getting anything. It's very rare. At this point, I've been doing it so long. So what I do with that is I go back in myself. I go just a second to the client. I go back in myself and I do one of these, oh, you know, I really love you, God. And it's just so great being a spirit with you. And you know what? I have no idea what I'm doing here. And I have no idea what to say to this person. If you want to come and say something to them, good luck to you. I'm just a vehicle here anyway, and I'm having a great time. So I'm just going to wait till you say something. And then something comes out. You know, I'm a spiritual janitor. You know, that's kind of how I think of myself. I'm just sweeping up the stuff they tell me to sweep up. My hands go, I'm moving energy, I go into other lifetimes. But that's a gift that came out. It didn't come out of my being psychic. Psychic is a symptom of mystic for me. I'm a mystic, and I have psychic symptoms. I can tell the future, I can tell the past. I don't want to. I ask not to see the future because I think it's highly uncreative for the person being told, now you know this and now you're going to skip everything till you get to that part. You know, life is about, here's what you really want, and it's just a ruse to get you to take the journey. You know, it isn't about the carrot. So I think that's kind of where I come from. I think it's very important to, wherever you're going, whoever you're talking to, make sure that you understand what is the intention of the person you're working with. How do they hold you? How do they see you? I've done seminars for therapists, and the question is, how do you hold your clients? Are they sick people? Are they imbalanced? Are they your teachers? And depending on how you think of them, it changes how you extend your energy and what they do with it. And that relationship comes out of that. So be really clear about your intent, be clear about your motivation, why are you doing it? And when you're a client, be clear about what you want out of it and why you're doing what you're doing. You know, what's really going on under there, and what is it that really speaks to your heart about it, so that you can be clear with you, what's the value that you want here. That's what I'm a business person, I always want to know, you know, what's your objective, what's your deliverable. When I do a reading, it's the same thing as when I do work in business. What's your objective, what's your deliverable? And I have had, I'll tell you one story about one of my clients who is blind. And he called me up and he said to me, I'm blind, and I heard about you, and I think I'm going to get a reading with you, and I think it's going to change my life. And I said, well, let me manage those expectations for you. You know, I said, you know, you could get inspired by the fabric on my chair, and that would be enough. It may not come from me, but I'll do what I can. Then I started thinking about the quotes from the Gospels, and I found myself saying, okay, greater works than these will you do, heal the sick, raise the dead, make the blind see. Good luck to you, because here it comes. So that's what I said before Israel came in. His name is Israel Antonio, and he allows me to tell a story. And he came in and he said, when I was 14, I woke up with a detached retina. Some people have this, it's spontaneous. They wake up. He had his sight, and then he was blind in one eye. And it was horrific. He was 14 years old. And he learned how to deal with that, got all the way kind of past his depression. 6 years later, he was at the university. He got hit by a bus and lost the sight in his other eye. How about that for karma? How about that for just dealing with life? So he is completely blind, very depressed for a long time. He had to learn to live with no complete dependence on other people. And this guy's a jack, so and he's a funny jack. And he's a young man, he's in his early 20s. And so we talked about it, and I looked at his ancestral energy, and I said, you know, there's a pattern of being downtrodden through your ancestral patterns here. And in their case, they were very good, whatever, Christians or Jews or whatever they were, and they're looking down at their feet, and they're in a very humble position, and people were saying, yeah, you know, you're in that position, and I can understand, and they're saying, I can't do any better than this. This is the best I can do, and I'll just survive, and I can do it, I can make it. And people were saying, I understand, and really understanding and feeling pity for them, and understanding their self-pity. And it was everybody agreeing with this. And here comes Israel. Now, is there anyone in this room or in this world that wouldn't say, honey, you go feel self-pity for the rest of your life. You earned it, you know? Who would judge this man for being depressed? Who would judge this man for crawling in a hole and not coming out? None of us, right? None of us. I said, however, you have this incredible opportunity to inspire people because you have a right to self-pity that most of us don't. And so if you decide that the buck stops here, you're going to heal your ancestral line up and all your kids down, because I've watched that happen energetically. And by the way, if you're ever in a tough situation or you have worked through something, I highly recommend just going to your heart and saying, I dedicate this to. I dedicate my pain to this person. I dedicate this process that I'm going through and so hard, I'm going to work through it, I'm committed to doing it, and I dedicate it to someone else. That's real healing. You've just accelerated their ability to get to the next level without having to work as hard as you did to do it. That's pure love. That's pure gift out of love. So that's just a sidebar. So he said, okay, I get it. This has meaning for me. This is why this happened to me, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life inspiring people. And he, at the end of the reading, so we did a lot of work there, and energetically speaking, and when he got done, he said, you know, I'm a playwright, and people have told me to write my story, but I didn't know why. Why would anyone want to hear it? Now I know why. I'm going to write a play, and it's going to be about my vision, or a lack thereof, called In the Dark. So he did, and as he walked out the door with his sense of meaning intact, and he said, I'm so glad I know that my life has meaning now, I heard Christ's voice say to me, and that's how you make a blind man see. Got it? It's never what it looks like. Never what it looks like. He did the play. It was 2 great reviews. He just finished a triathlon, and he'd never swum before, and he never ran before. That's amazing. He's just amazing. So that's, as we say, and even though as above, so below, as within, so without, you never know the window dressing. You never know who you're looking at, who's sitting next to you, so be careful. Anybody else?
Yeah, you were starting to say how you reconciled your Catholicism with your mystical gifts. I don't think.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I think that the Gospels are really clear that say greater works than these will you do. They insist greater works than these will you do. Freely given to you, freely you give. When I was in college and I went through the dark night, I went and I had amnesia, I went to church and said, what did I do? And I said to Christ, should I volunteer more? Should I serve more people? And I heard, the gift was not yours to, it's not yours to give, and it's what I give, and what I take away. The gift is not yours. It's like you're renting it. It's a gift. The gift that I give you, I can also take back. And I was like, whoa. So I had no gifts for a while. And the question was, I said, what do I do? And I heard read Teresa of Avila, which is where I first heard about the dark night of the soul. And that's how it helped me understand what was going on. But in the meantime, I understand that what I have still are priestly gifts. And in any religion, whatever you call that, it's tell the people I love them, tell the people I care. When they feel far away from me, tell the people I'm there. And that's all I'm ever doing. That's all I want to do. Tell the people they have a nobler role in a bigger world than they think. Connect them to the meaning inside them and outside them. And that is what my faith was from Catholicism and all the way to this New Age part has been not changed, remain unchanged. And so thank you for the question, but that's my response, yeah.
I like your comments about
it doesn't always have to be 72 degrees and sunny, where there's no color and no passion and no possibility beyond going down the street. And it's really nice that you're putting that out there, because I feel that so many people miss so much possibility, so many aspects of being a human history of limitation of the drug.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't judge people who do decide that they're going to go that route, because I certainly have seen the difficulties, the pain and the trauma of having a child that learns differently, that's ordered differently than their parents and than a lot of us are. But the one I have intention of is next fall, I'm looking at putting out Jedi camps, creating Jedi camps for kids with intuitive gifts. And what I got was to take it out of the paradigm of medicine and take it out of the paradigm of religion and put it into an archetypal paradigm, because the Jedis slay their own fear. They have Obi-Wan Kenobis and mentors, and the idea would be to understand, get an owner's manual for your gift, teach each other your gifts, and connect you to leadership opportunities in the world and put you to work now, serving with your gifts. That's why we're given the gifts, develop them and give them in service. So intuitive gifts are no different than if you're good at engineering or math. They're just marginalized because they're not in common. As my brothers used to say, Therese, your common sense is not common. So that's my hope is next year to do that, because I really think that the kids have so much to give us. And if we don't let them or give them a venue, they're going to find a way to express that in a way that's not helpful for them, or for the rest of us will lose their gift. So, yes.
Do you know how come, is there a possibility that you know maybe how come I wanted to be moving to another place in the world, and I still don't know. I'm listening, but
Yeah.
do you know what I could do? Or do you know?
It's really funny. I always take everything as a metaphor. So if I take my metaphors seriously. So if I am looking for a place outside myself and I don't know where to go, I go inside to a place inside myself and say, what does home look like in there? What does home look like in there, and where is it, and what describes it for me, and what is rich about it, and what's helpful about it, and where does that rest? And then keep asking at night and day, to imagine that place. To bring the grace to imagine it. It might be that there's no place you need to go. It might be just that you're restless about something that you haven't hit inside right now. And that's the place to go, and where the peace resides, here and now. I used to think when I was a kid, and I've traveled all over the world. I have been all over the world as a consultant. And when I was a kid, I used to think, why would anyone need to travel? Because I could go inside and go so deeply in there that nothing else made sense or any difference. So sometimes home is just, we think it's got to be the next place because I'm restless here. Then maybe there's something connected to home that really needs to be met and seen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you say that the person's name is the mantra, like I'm thinking of the Catholic children, Michael is Mike. So do you see two different kind of personality things with them?
No.
No.
I get the spirit of the person with that name. I get them. Because, there's Mike Sr., Mike Jr., Mike the Third, Mike the Fourth, and they all have the same name. And if you tell me Mike so-and-so with the same name sitting over there, but I get your Mike because that's your intention. I heard this on the radio, like, what about telepathy, right? What if there's 7 mics and you're tuning into Mike? Are you going to get everybody on your horn there? Are you going to start hearing all their thoughts when you get to telepathy? I always think internet is training wheels for telepathy. I used to be at AT&T internally as a consultant, and it was telephony. And they used to say our vision is to connect anyone, anywhere, any way they want to. And I used to say, isn't that telepathy? And the internet is exactly what they do. And so it's a frequency on a radio station that that word made flesh has a unique vibration to it. It's a unique vibration to you. And I'm tuning into that. So I don't really need the name, but if I do, I'll get it from that vibration. And really what I'm doing is I'm a tuning fork. If you're there, and my understanding is that I'll go into a vibration that attunes to your unique vibration, so I'm going to go into your unique holograph and begin to work through it and work around it and work in it, or witness it and be able to report on it, I should say, and then facilitate healing with it. But it comes from it comes from you as a holographic expression of divine love. So my theory is the only reason we're human beings is because we have a suspicion that we're separate from love. I'm unworthy, I'm unwanted, I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving. And every one of those is a unique vibration. And we have some part of us that suspects that we're not quite worthy. So let's be human beings, because being human beings by definition means that I'm separate from spirit. Look, I have a body, right? And then we're here to study some very particular quality of love. Maybe you're studying responsibility and independence, and you're studying, I don't know what you're studying. If I looked, I would, my embarrass any of us, but we're studying pairs of qualities about love, and we study them for eons. Or not, because I don't know if any of it's true, because nobody does, about time and space. But I get stories that'll locate your issue, your challenge, out there in the ethers, and you've been studying. Well, let me give you an example. And I say this because my Rush Limbaugh loving cigar smoking brother John, his house burned down. And he lost his business to a guy who stole it from him. And then he was ready to get a reading from me. It takes a lot for some people to get a reading from me. Poor guy. So I did it without him there. I just called him up and I did it on a tape and sent it to him. And he told, at a reunion, he told my nuclear engineer brother Ed and my coach sister, who's outside in healthcare, and he said, I got a reading from trees. At which point my brother Ed, who's a nuclear engineer, said, you did what? Jeez. And my sister Ann, who's had readings from me, said, what took you so long? And he said, well, I didn't even want to look at that thing because it was so weird. I didn't want to listen to it. I was afraid of what I was going to hear. It just was all like weird. And he said, then I listened to it and it was just a story. And you know what? Everyone would do the same thing in the same story. Let me tell you what the story was. He said, we're in a medieval castle, and here we are, the knights are coming in and coming out, they're getting drinks, and stuff like that, and I'm the bartender, I own the place, and I hear that there's going to be a big, huge invasion, and we're all going to get killed, and there's no way to get out of it. So what do you do? And he turns to my brother and sister like, well, it'd be the same answer from everybody, and he says, so what do you do? He says to my engineer brother, and my brother says, Ed says, well, it's about honor. It's about honor. You would have to tell those knights. You wouldn't want them to die without knowing where they were, what they were doing, why they were doing it. It's about honor. My brother looks at him like he's got 6 heads, and then my sister said, I would really have to take time to consider whose responsibility this decision was. I'm not sure I would feel that it was mine, but I'd have to think about it for a while because, it depends. And my brother looked at all of them and said, I just bought them all drinks. I just wanted to be happy before they died. I mean, what are you talking about? You see, they're each studying love in a particular way. And John, it's all about relationship. He wants everybody to be happy. He has boundary things to learn about. John will go let other people take from him because he wants them to be happy more than he wants him to be happy. But the truth is, the boundary is really important because that's balance and respect and honor of self, because as above, so below, so within, so without. If I don't respect me, you can't respect me. I've got to build that respect because I love you so much I'm going to go overboard too. And it looks in Christian charity like that's a great idea. So how do you learn that on the soul level? And Mr. Honor over there, we've got to know if that's going to be an invasion. And he's got honor, but boy, that guy, never mind about relationship and buying people drinks. He'd rather make sure that line is straight. So he's got the other opposite. So he's studying that. And my sister, she's just, she was never aged. She just has a little thing about decisions. But probably from a lot of lifetimes and not just this one. But so everybody has a different aspect of love that they're studying, and at some point, it's very subtle, it can be the same story, but we'll get all different things out of it because our psyche is making meaning out of that based on our particular vibration, our soul work, our soul lesson. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking in people's energy. I'm looking for what's the uniqueness of you, what's your story, what's your soul lesson, what are you trying to learn? And when you get it, of course, Catholicism, the fruits of the works of spirit is always peace. If you don't leave the situation feeling that you're more peaceful, clearer, in more alignment, something out there wasn't about spirit. Now you can always be disturbed and still be at peace, you know that? If you're doing your work and it's hard, but you're doing the right work, you're at peace, even though it's hard, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about, I know I'm doing the right stuff and I know this is hard and I know this is it. That's peace, right? That's alignment, that's centeredness, that's groundedness, that's right boundary, that's right relationship. That's what we're all looking for. Incarnation. I think I'm about out of time here. One more? Yes.
Does anybody else in your family, maybe not your siblings, but your ancestors' family, have any psychic or mystic ability? Do you know?
I don't know how I got in his family. No. I think with 10 of them, that one of them would hit the, you know.
Or even
No.
your parents or your ancestors?
No, my mother is a saint of the ordinary way. She definitely is St. Teresa. When she had only 5 kids left at home, she went off and became a chaplain and worked with dying patients and their families. She gives talks to hospice nurses. She is a saint. She is the priest of the family, but she doesn't believe in it. But she acknowledges she's very, very good. That's why she's a saint. She accepts me, but she doesn't buy it. But she accepts me and the way that I believe, right? And she does know that there's something to those gifts because of how many things have happened that are undeniable. But that's not her faith. Her faith is much more aligned with Catholicism in a more traditional sense. They say that my grandmother used to use tarot cards. I don't know. But I think those things were in the closet for so long. Certainly I was in the closet for so long. You know, I got home from Boulder one time and started talking, and my mother was talking, and I started saying something about crystals and what I saw or something. My mother, she looks at me, and she looks at my brother, and then she starts another conversation like, I just didn't say that. And then later she says, you know, there's a guy named John Edwards, and he talks to dead people. And he said, you know, and he's going, CR, 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 and I'm like, what am I, chopped liver? My sister's like, don't go there. So yeah, you know, and we won't even go into dead people. There's a lot of stuff I learned from dead people about dead people, but that's a whole different talk. So anyway, thank you kindly for your attention.
What a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to hear a story like that. It's really rare and a wonderful gift for us. Thank you. Don't forget, we're going to Ruby's tonight if you want to continue the conversations with Therese. And next month we have Danny and Brinkley. Do not forget, Danny and Brinkley is coming. You don't want to miss him.